In-Situ and us, hand in hand, since 2012, just been a constant. Us in their lives and them in our lives.
I first came into contact with In-Situ via the library. That's where I sort of first met them, when they were based up in the library in the back room. That's how we sort of met, and that's how I've been with them ever since.
I first came involved with In-Situ when I was a new mum to my youngest child. I think I was just looking for places to go and, you know, people to kind of spend time with.
I kind of, by accident, stumbled across In-Situ. Whilst walking into the library, I was amazed to learn that there is actually an arts organisation. I, born and bred in Briarfield, left here to go and find an art scene. So I really was introduced to In-Situ in its very early days, right at the start.
It was chances, absolute chance. So I was going for lunch with my wife at the bistro at the A Centre in Nelson. And as we walked through the foyer, there was a talkie-walkie session going on. So we sat for about 10 minutes, got involved in the conversation, and I think it kind of resonated with me personally and through work as well, that this is quite a good kind of idea of how to do certain things about dialogue, which has always been key to building bridges.
They had a lot of sort of talks with different artists that they'd bring to Briarfield, and I kind of loved listening to those and just being involved in the different conversations that they were having in the library, and I just sort of got to know them that way, really.
In-Situ was part of the library at Briarfield, just behind there, so I remember going in and getting really nervous, but it was just a really nice formal chat. At that time they had an idea to kind of fuse Briarfield's community together, so that's the Asian community and the white community, and trying to build a relationship between them both, because it was kind of separated at that time.
I joined the Mums to Mums up at Marsden Heights, and that's when I first met Paul and Kerry, and they had arranged a bit of a exploration day, sort of exploring the Forest of Bowland. My first experience with In-Situ in a sort of work capacity was during the Suzanne Lacey Circle and the Square project. I was kind of helping generate interest and leads for the interviews that were going on in the mill.
I was in LA and I was working with the artist Suzanne Lacey, and totally by coincidence, Paul, William Titley and Kerry Morrison had reached out to Suzanne Lacey to ask if she would be interested in working with them, because they had set up an artist collective in Pendle, based in Briarfield, and invited her over. That weirdly coincided with me having accepted the job of director of Super Slowway.
We were part of the decision making, weren't we, when the mill, they had funding and they called all the local community to come and decide what they wanted to do with the funding. We went all along that journey with them, so we weren't like they just called us on 2 events and said, oh, that's it, right to the end, until like when they decided what they wanted to do. And even the celebration at the end, when they had, I think, 500 people for the banqueting, and it was just like from start to finish, we saw it, you know, that was a proud moment for us all. And it all happened because we were with this project, In-Situ.
I think what I think about In-Situ, it's basically not about them, it's about the people that they meet, you know.
It's all about people, really. People are at the heart of everything that In-Situ does.
The way of working is very engaging with people, so they're on the ground, speaking to people, taking on board what they hear and learn, and putting that into their practice as well.
It's never where I've come in as an artist working it in, I've just done my work and I've left. You still build these relationships, you still have them for years to come, and I think that's the core foundation of In-Situ, where these relationships and partnerships carry on.
They work with a lot of organisations on a real close level.
You have local councillors, local mosques, faith forums, youth groups, schools, colleges who are willing to work alongside In-Situ in order to improve our area.
Nearly every month there's something that we're doing with In-Situ, so it's a relationship that's continued and probably grown, so our work just goes hand in hand.
It's symbolic of all the relationships that In-Situ have managed to weave together over their short lifetime, on the ground but also with authorities. That's not an easy trick to pull off.
I think we're all like a family now.
Yes. Yeah.
Instead of being friends, I think we will call it a family now.
that relationship, I can't think of many other organisations that share that openness and that friendship.
When I'm sad and I go there and talk to them, then after them I feel myself, oops, I have family.
I describe In-Situ's work as powerful, extraordinary. They help out the community in different ways by showing different art pieces. The community as a whole, with In-Situ, is powerful because we all work together to do different things.
For me, it's brought everything to life in this area.
Having conversations and spending time on the streets and on the canal and on the hill and in places was really important, and just being so committed to working here.
In-Situ have introduced a different definition of what art is. They tackle our social and political issues through creative methods.
I would describe In-Situ as having a really rich and really deep connection with the local area, and their kind of symbiotic relationship that In-Situ informs how things happen in the local area, but also what happens locally informs the work of In-Situ, and I think that's really special.
Without In-Situ, we would have never experienced something like this, because they do different and we need different.
It's a platform where you can say what you feel.
Is that voice that you're giving to people who feel like they don't really have one.
Why should it always be the cities? You know, it should come to places like Briarfield. I kind of don't recognise myself as an artist. I'm a civil servant by profession, but I do creative things.
It's very much about where you are at right now, and I think that's beautiful in itself.
For me, In-Situ has been life-changing because I followed this journey and was a part of this journey. It was part of my self-development as an artist, as a person, as a young British South Asian Muslim. Being part of In-Situ was a massive part of my identity.
I think coming from an Asian background, and obviously with art being kind of a taboo subject in a sense of where is it going to get you, what you're going to do. With me taking that step and having the support of William and Paul has kind of changed the dynamic within my own family as well, with where art can lead and where art can take you. I always felt there was a deeper connection to the art that I did. Mine was always about personal experiences growing up, being Pakistani and also being British. It was just very confusing, and I wanted a way to express that, and I found that I could do that within art without it having to be a pretty picture on the wall.
Making that link with In-Situ was kind of like a godsend for us, because it just gave that breath of fresh air as to how we can see things in the same perspective, but think about a wider range of approaches.
It certainly challenged our way of working. I mean, we've been youth workers forever, and it's like it's given us a new way of working and a new perspective on things.
That's what creates things to happen, how it is changing people's lives.
To me, it's opened up more of the possibilities of art. I can see more of its potential for transformation at this level.
In-Situ opened a lot of doors, hasn't it, really, for us? I think of life differently than I did before.
People who don't know what art can actually do for them, when they first see that, their mind's just blown, because they're like, oh, okay, well, you're doing this and you're helping people get jobs, or you're helping people express their views on what they're actually worried about, where normally people wouldn't have those conversations.
What In-Situ does is they push you and they say, look beyond and look your comfort zone, and let's see what you're about as a human being, you know.
In-Situ to me is a group of people and an organisation that actually gets the best out of people. It inspires you to do things that you didn't necessarily know you were capable of, and it looks for what you're capable of, it looks for what's possible, and it's always looking for the positives and ways to grow things.
What I've personally liked about In-Situ is the value base when it comes to community activism. And some practitioners can be involved in the sector because it's been a career choice. I suppose over the years, you know, we kind of, between ourselves, building bridges and In-Situ, try and really create this new threshold of the values that you need to bring to all the methods and approaches that you have when it comes to engaging with people.
I think that coming into In-Situ has highlighted the importance of letting people go on their own journey and not using these tick boxes and ways of outcomes, etc., of trying to document the change or the impact that a certain project has had on a certain person.
I think it's an enabler. It's an organisation that's enabled so much to happen in this area.
I never really thought that I'd get into the deep root of what art can actually do for society. where it's giving people a voice that don't really get heard at all, which is an amazing thing. And I think that's the main focus of In-Situ. They give everyone a voice within Briarfield, within Nelson, and there has been a massive change.
We all have our own trials, tribulations as individuals and families, and when you come to engage with people, you can't ignore all those extra things that matter to them. You have to take some of that on board. So if you've got that value base, it will be about that person or that family. It won't be just about your target. We are trying to deal with or tackle issues that are not necessarily kind of like front line for state. Sometimes we are about filling those gaps which other people, it's not their remit or they don't want to do it.
Things like this take time. It's kind of like that saying, you know, plant the seeds of trees that you know you're never going to sit under the shade of.
I think it's really important that children know art isn't pen, paper, art is everything, art is life.
With exploring nature, it's beyond red and blue colours, it's beyond that. Life is everything, art is everything. Life is art, and we don't realise we're just doing art every single day. We're surrounded in it, aren't we? We don't realise. It's really hard to put our finger saying that this is art.
You know, art's just a figment of our imaginations, isn't it? It's the most powerful thing that humans have.
I think they've really broadened the definition of what art is.
I've kind of really shifted from seeing art as something that is shown to people to really art being all about the relationships and the connections that you can have with people in general.
I think of art as something that makes you feel something these days rather than a thing.
I think if you give the people tools, then it just goes off, and then they'll just say like, oh well, this is what I've created and this is what my voice is.
We get very used to living surrounded by dereliction and degradation often in the natural environment. And artists ask why and why not and what can you do about that. And it makes people realise that they can ask those questions and they can do something about it.
I believe that art hasn't got any limitations in the sense of when it comes to giving people that chance to tell their story.
Art is tolerating each other, respecting, loving each other. That's art as well.
Without In-Situ, we wouldn't have experienced such a wonderful journey. This is new, this is raw, this is exciting.
It's been such an amazing adventure that I'll be with them for even longer, thankfully.
I think it's just a melting pot of cultures, that everyone's welcome, everyone's allowed to say their thoughts and their opinions.
It's like being on a magical ride going with In-Situ, because it's like being on the carpet, like, you know, like Aladdin here. You sit on the carpet, you don't know which way you're going to go.
It's enhancing the way that we work and the impact that our work is having in Pendle.
So I definitely believe that with In-Situ being based here in Briarfield, it's brought a community closer.
It's made art accessible to people in Briarfield, and you know, and to say to people like me, who's an artist in the making, you know, what is possible.